Hi, welcome to Escape into a Cause, the podcast inspiring Central Texans to turn good intentions into impact. I'm Stephanie Dyer, a philanthropic rookie, learning how to give back with a little help from my expert friends. Together, we'll share stories of local nonprofits, explore ways to connect, and encourage everyone to step up, unplug, and make a difference. Let's dive in and escape into a cause. Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Stephanie.
We are going to escape into Austin Baptist Chapel Angel House Soup Kitchen. They serve warm meals and dignity to Austin's unhoused community every single day. If you don't know who they are, you would recognize it if you saw it. It's on East Cesar Chavez. Sure. It's really well known, and I'm really excited to hear more about it.
Awesome.
We are going to dive into a topic that matters, and the topic is, what type of charity categories do most people care about? What do you think most people care about?
I know high up on that list, which I think people are always surprised at, is animal welfare.
Yeah.
Is it high up there?
It's high up there.
Okay. And children.
Yes, children.
And mental health?
So the issue is I'm looking at two different sets of data, and I'm sure I didn't look hard enough, but the way that they categorize them makes all the difference in what we're looking at of what people care about. But it says religion is and always has been America's favorite charitable target.
Okay.
So religion.
So giving back to churches, like tithing.
Yes. 39% of all charitable dollars goes back to religion.
That's really interesting.
It is.
Okay.
Which, of course, trickles down to outside of just maintaining the church and the clergy or whatever religion you're in. But the next is 19% education, 15% human services, 11% health, 7% overseas, so international developing countries, 6% arts, and 4% nature. Of course, that doesn't really dive into children versus military versus seniors, right? So that was a high level breakdown. What I did is recently Amplify Austin. I actually grabbed their data and I decided to look at it.
Oh, fantastic. That's a great use of that data.
Yeah. So,
what'd you learn?
So what
Central
people
Austin.
care about in Central Texas is interesting. You nailed it. Animals, number one. Of course, this doesn't include matching or anything, but I tallied $1.2 million that they raised for animal care.
Of the almost 10 million that they raised.
That's correct. But it's even less than 10 million because this does not include their matches.
Okay.
So this all tallied to quite a bit less than the 10 million because it doesn't include those.
That makes sense.
But next was arts and culture,
which is a big deal for Austin. We are an artsy town, and I would say value music, theater, and art scene more than other communities. So I think that's really interesting and unique to Austin.
And of course, in this set, we have some religion, but I think most religions stay out of Amplify Austin. So you don't really have a good take on religious giving versus
secular.
Yes. That's right. And it does divide a little bit more than you would think. And some of these have overlap. So I know Sage Studio is in the disability services, but they also could be in arts and culture, right? So it's not a perfect system. Basic needs is number 3. And of course, we go education and literacy, number 4, housing, shelter, and homelessness, number 5. And take a guess, what is the number 1 nonprofit in Austin?
In terms of fundraising?
Yes.
Was it the Central Texas Food Bank?
It was. You're correct.
Love our Central Texas Food Bank.
Do you know what number 2 was?
I don't.
It was shadow cats. So animals.
Now I want to research shadow cats. I've never heard of this. And what does that mean?
I clicked on it. Definitely cat care,
of course.
Vet care. I need to dive more into that. I saw it very high level. It's absolutely about cats. So Central Texas Food Bank, number 1, Shadow Cats, number 2, Mobile Loaves and Fishes, which I hear about all the time, number 3, Education, number 4, and The Caring Place, number 5. So anyway, just to give you like maybe a little bit of an idea about the top. And the military and veterans is pretty low, which was surprising because I was actually told vets usually get a lot of dollars donated. So I was just surprised by that. You also don't know in any given year, what are people more concerned about? So like Planned Parenthood was a big one this year.
Right.
And that goes into the healthcare and wellness, which was number 6 on the list.
But I imagine if you're in San Antonio or in Waco, you'll probably see more of those military dollars because they have bases nearby. Whereas in Austin, we've got Mabry, but not a very active military community, which is why Amplify and programs like Amplify, and I know it has its critics, but I find it fascinating because you do learn about your community and what its citizens are really interested in terms of giving their dollars.
And animals and arts makes sense.
Very
for
Austin. Absolutely.
Very Austin. Okay, so I'm going to tell you, I dived into this Reddit forum.
Love Reddit.
I was looking at animals. Why are people so drawn by animals?
Yeah.
And there was this debate in Reddit about, do you care about humans? Do you care more about animals? And it's like, why is this debate happening? But it was just so interesting how some people cared so much about what they care about.
Of course, yeah.
So I think some of it's just core, our experiences. For example, I'm a dog person. My good friend, I have to make sure my dogs are put away when she comes over because she's a cat person, right? So we both love animals, but we're different animal people.
I think it's really interesting. So a couple of things. We know there's the demographic cliff happening right now. Yes. And I think we just confirmed that the birth rate continues to decline. And it used to be like 2 point something, maybe even just 10 years ago. And now it's like 1.8. So people are having fewer babies or choosing not to procreate at all. In lieu of that, they have animals. They do have families. They do have this family that they've created, and it's usually through pets. And so knowing that there's fewer human babies in the world gives this space for more pets. And so I do think there's this affinity towards animals and the families that people are creating. But what is interesting is you look at the longevity of the life of a pet or an animal versus a human, and it doesn't compare. And so I acknowledge and appreciate sort of these debates, because even if you do not have a human family of your own, when you weigh the two, where is your money best spent? And when we talk about efficiencies and overall impact, some would say that the human makes more sense.
You know why I care so much about the youth is because I think you're getting your best bang for your buck. You're like, okay, I'm helping giving them the foundation. Yes. But what I love is that I don't want to be in a world where everyone cares only about the children. I don't want to be in a world where everyone cares about the environment and not animals. I respect that some people don't care. They don't feel it in their heart that's pulling them that way. But that's okay.
That's okay. Different passions.
If basic needs isn't your passion, if youth and children isn't your passion, I think you just have to figure out what speaks to you.
Absolutely.
And we're all different. And that's what makes everything good. Do you know Maya Angelou, the poet and writer?
Maya Angelou was my professor at Wake Forest University.
No.
I took her class and it was the best thing. Aside from marrying Ed, it was the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. I know.
Oh my gosh, I did know this.
Yeah. And
this isn't one of those things where Adam Grant, but I don't know Adam Grant.
I was so fortunate to take her class. And what's fun, so she lived in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She was a professor at Wake Forest. You could only take her class, and that goes into a long story. But she also turned 75 while I was a student there. So this was in 2003. And Oprah Winfrey, who was basically like a daughter to her, threw her birthday party, and I worked that birthday party. So yes, Maya is very important in my life.
That's amazing. I was going to quote her, and you actually know her.
Which quote are you?
That's incredible. Oh my gosh. Okay, quote, I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did.
But they will never forget how you made them feel.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it's so beautiful.
It's beautiful, and I think it speaks to the causes.
Yes, absolutely.
How do we feel showing up for volunteering for these causes? Yeah. How do these causes attract us?
Yes.
How do they make us feel?
And I think it goes back to the celebrity foundations that we were talking about. That's just doing. That's just running a gala and raising funds, but is it really making someone feel better about their worth and their value in this world? Is it really making someone feel like people care about them? I think it's a good point.
And we're going to be talking about galas later.
I'm excited. They're popular.
They are.
Big fundraiser.
All right. Thanks, Court.
Thanks, Steph.
We'll be right back. Escape into a Cause is sponsored by Nightlight Insurance Agency. You know how a nightlight gives you comfort and peace of mind in the dark? That's exactly what Nightlight aims to do. Guide you through life's uncertainties with personalized insurance for your home, auto, business, and more. Nightlight Insurance strives to provide its clients the best coverage at the best price without sacrificing on customer service. Here's what one client had to say. Nightlight was able to lower our car insurance significantly, answered all our questions, and returned our calls promptly. Very professional, would highly recommend. So it's no surprise Nightlight has a 5-star rating on Google. Nightlight also makes this podcast possible by covering production costs so all other sponsorship dollars and gifts can go directly to nonprofits and volunteers. And as part of their mission to give back, Nightlight proudly donates $1,000 to every nonprofit we interview. If you are a sponsor interested in giving back to our podcast, please find us on social media and let us know. Nightlight is an agency focused on personalized service and giving back. See how much you could save and how good it feels to have peace of mind by visiting nightlightinsurance.com. We are escaping into Austin Baptist Chapel, and we have Pastor Mark Smith and his wife, Cindy, who's also the director. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, I'm really excited y'all are here. I want to talk about the nickname, which is Angel House Soup Kitchen, which is sometimes what you are recognized as. Can you tell us a little bit about that nickname?
So we've been around since 1986, and so it goes that far back. Our guests would come and they would just see the generosity of our volunteers that would show up and just give and not receive anything in return. And they just had such a heart for the guest that they just thought that they have to be angels that are serving them. And so they nicknamed us the Angel House.
I love that. And when I was recommended to reach out to you guys, which I've had a lot of people talk about Austin Baptist Chapel, but I often hear it being referred to as Angel House Soup Kitchen. Tell us a little bit about what Austin Baptist Chapel does.
So we serve, I would say, averages 200 guests in the morning for breakfast, and then we serve about 300 guests at lunchtime. And it just varies day to day, but that's a good number that we start with. We don't ask any questions. If you're hungry, you come and eat with us. We're going to serve you a meal. We see people that have pulled up in brand new cars, and you kind of question, what is this? But we don't ask. They're in need of food, and so we're there to meet that need.
That's great. My son is 16, and we have gone to Westover Food Pantry in town, and my son did see a couple of Teslas, and he asked about it. I said, we don't ask. They're very similar. Right. Nobody is in the situation that you think they're in. From the outside, you never know.
Back during COVID, we would see people pull up. They were like brand new Cadillacs, and it could have been that they had a great job, but then things shifted and it changed so fast that we really don't know what happened. But we would see people of all demographics, people, like I said, showing up in brand new cars, to people that you could tell had nothing. Again, we're having that heart for what God calls us to do. And I guess I can share a verse real quick. It's
I would love
Matthew 25:35, and it's our mantra that, for I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. And so we just stand behind that because we know that God's called us to do that.
That's incredible. Y'all are doing great work. I want to talk about location. Y'all are in prime downtown Austin.
Right. We're at 908 East Cesar Chavez. So we're on the other side of I-35. On the other side of us is, I guess that would be the IHOP. So we're like in the thick of it. And we have a lot of people that'll cut through going to the airport. So during South by Southwest and ACL, Formula One, people coming and going, they'll see that food line of people standing up front. And then we've got who we are in front, and they'll contact us and want to know how they can get involved or maybe give monetary toward us. So it's really touching.
That's fantastic. And I actually have seen the lines outside of your building, and I didn't connect it until later once I reached out and looked on Google reviews and I saw the image.
Isn't that interesting?
It is. And I pass it all the time, and I've seen people out the line, and it has great visibility, and it's got a beautiful limestone kind of lighter and with the blue sign.
That's us. If they call that the Frank Blue from, I think it's Sherwin-Williams. Yeah. They actually partnered with us, and they donated the paint to do that, to fix it up. And when we picked the color, our founder, his name is Frank Deutsch, and he started it back earlier in 1986. And we're like, we got to do something in his honor. So we picked Frank Blue.
I love that. Okay, so would like to switch gears to impact and numbers.
For the month of March, we served over 15,000 meals. To date, for this year, we've served 40,556 meals. And so for total, since we've been open since 1986, was 4,047,880 meals.
Over 4 million meals.
Yeah.
This little Austin Baptist Chapel place.
Yeah.
And then you already mentioned every day on average, breakfast, about 200 meals, and about 300 meals for lunch.
That's correct. We really don't know how many individual guests that we serve. And I try to make that clear because they can come through one time for breakfast, but then they can come through again for lunch. So we just put it all together and we just say that we have served 500 meals a day.
And I know a lot of days of the year.
Yes, 363 days a year. We're off on Christmas Day and Thanksgiving Day, which to people that when they're looking to help with charity, they really want to get involved during those 2 days. But something people need to understand is that we're open the rest of the year. Like, we don't take government holidays off. We just are there to be there for our guests.
We've talked breakfast and lunch, but there are services beyond that.
Yes.
Can you speak to that?
We do showers every day and we give out clothes. And then on Sundays, we have a service. We do it outside since COVID. We've been doing it but we've done it every day, even when it's raining, cold, whatever. And so we do that Sunday morning from 8:30 to 9.
Yeah, that's great because those are all the basic needs when you think about it. And we talked about this a little bit, Cindy, that the hand up is that they can actually be in a position where they can go and feel good about themselves. You feel clean, hygiene, you're fed, those basic needs. That's wonderful.
That's it. We try to treat everybody with dignity. And so, like you were saying, we give a hand up, not a hand out, because we try to break that barrier, that routine that's been generation after generation. And it's very far in between we see it, but we do see it. And that just keeps us going with that.
I know we are talking about the numbers, but the impact is not just in the numbers, of course. So I looked at y'all's Google reviews, and I'm sure you've read this in the past 2 months, but I wanted to read that because this is a great example of impact. And Mark, you have tons of stories of impact we'll get to in just a moment. But the review says, I was 18, dumb, and homeless in 2008. The Angel House provided one hot meal at lunchtime for me. I'll never forget their hospitality. Amazing organization for those in dire need. Please continue to support them. I am a senior computer science major at University of Houston downtown now. I would like to open up my own kitchen in downtown Houston. They've inspired me after so many years. Thank you so much for your service. Why I wanted to read that is because the impact is not always in how many meals do we give a day. The impact is the hand up, as you're mentioning, and for people to be able to come to a place that they feel safe during a time in their lives where they're maybe down. And I think that was a great example.
Yeah, and the funny thing with Google review, most of the time it's just like a big complaint box. And you get on there and you cannot please everybody. And that's the thing, because I'm a people pleaser, that we've learned that you can't. You just follow and you treat everyone the same. But then you get on these Google reviews and it just warms your heart. Some negative that'll happen, but we try to make it right.
Real quick, last numbers, because I think it's important. I think one of the most surprising things about the work that is done is how little staff. Can you speak to that?
There's only 3 of us that are paid staff and the rest are volunteers. We figure about 10 volunteers a day. And so you do the math on that. It takes a team, and we always just say it's an honor just to be able to try to break that barrier of hunger. It brings joy to us.
That's fantastic. The last thing I want to talk about is fundraising. I don't know if you want to speak to a little bit about maybe the fundraising or lack thereof.
If you can believe, in 30 years, he's never fundraised. And God's been faithful and provided, and just believe in it. And it's amazing from different things that'll show up that people will buy or say, this is coming in the mail, or we get stuff from Amazon a lot of times, and they don't even put their name who it is. And it blows your mind. But we've had coffee makers that one came like the day before, and the coffee maker broke. We do 400 pot coffee every day, 7 days a week. So we go through coffee like nobody's business. And it's just amazing. And the other thing is on the volunteers, if there's ever days that we don't have the volunteers show up, something happened, that we have a lot of our guests that want to help, and they'll bug Mo and us, hey, can I help or whatever. And a lot of those people get jobs. Once they change or feel like I have something to do, I can give back a little bit. And I always tell them, I said, if you volunteer, put us down that you volunteer. I will be a reference for you. And so a lot of them, I said, well, just tell them you're serving others until you find the right job. And it is amazing how many folks get jobs that, just because they have something to do or get in a routine.
Yeah. Those are those guest volunteers.
Yes. Yeah. And you kind of learn the hard way. You try to find the diamond in the rough. And I hate to put it that way, but there are. It's just people that are day in and day out. You never know potential until you put them in those positions. And we see it. And so it just builds up their confidence and just continues.
It seems if you believe, it comes, and it does come.
Right.
Do you want to speak to a few of those stories?
Yeah, it blows us away. Numerous times we've had it where it's been real close on food, or we didn't know what we were going to do. We had one day that we had everything put in the soup that we had, and somebody came by, had a catering event, a wedding or something, and they gave us all their enchiladas and tamales and whatnot, and we put it all in the soup. But we had enough that the soup was all hot and warm, but we're constantly loading stuff in it, and how it was just perfect timing. I've had people that's dropped off wedding cakes that they didn't eat at all, that they had, and we've thrown it in Ziploc bags or different things that came down to the wire. But it definitely blows us away that you see God show up and show out. Recently, we didn't have enough, and for all the years they've been there, Sunday's always been the gospel bird and the gospel word. And so they all look forward to it because we only do it one day a week. And it was one weird week, and out of 10 years, I've never not had enough chicken. And it was one that I didn't have enough to feed 30 people. Somebody called, or they sent a text and put $5,000 5,000 and some kind of numbers after it, emoji or whatever. And I didn't know what it was. So I just went to pick it up. And that day, Mo goes, this is the last day. If we don't get it, we're going to have to do something else. And Cindy's like, we'll buy tacos. It was 5,000 pounds of prepared cooked meat from a test kitchen. And we gave it to several different other ministries, as well as kept everything we could get in our freezer and refrigerators. And it was enough that we could put 5 pieces of meat on every sandwich for a week.
The only time that you were really struggling to meet the demand of what you're expecting for chicken day, for poultry day.
Yeah, it seems so. We have other places that donate.
Great.
So between Keep Austin Fed, and then we're partnered with the Central Texas Food Bank that donate to us. And it's touching to see the food that comes in, like he's saying, that meets those needs. So.
And we'll buy water. And sometimes people will get complaining, why don't you guys get sodas or whatever? Water's the cheapest thing you can buy. Tuesday, we got 6 pallets of sodas that came in, and we were only supposed to get like 2. So I don't know if they messed up, dropped off, gave us more, and we got it all in. And it's just so funny. You couldn't write a story up to show how God just provides. Yeah. And I mean, from clothes to different things that people will drop off and they'll just be right on time. And you're like, oh, it couldn't have been any better.
That's amazing. I love hearing those stories. People and businesses are just showing up in different ways. And I know that you've mentioned Sam's Club is a big supporter of you guys.
They've been with us over 30 years plus that they've been with us. So there's Sam's Club, there's Target, Whole Foods, and then UT campuses.
And a lot of the hospitals.
Their cafeterias, the hospitals, Cooper's Barbecue, they donate, Capitol Grill. It's like a CVS receipt. It's just so many because Austin is just so giving. Another is Golden Chick. They're huge.
They're the ones that give us the most biggest portion of chicken.
Atlas Subscription Coffee Company, they donate their excess coffee, and they're based here in Austin.
Can you imagine 4 pots, 100-cup pots a day that we do, and we can't use all the coffee they give us? And they're like, we just don't want it thrown away. And so some of the pantries and different places we give will put it in Ziploc bags and give people the coffee. And a lot of our guests are like, that's the best IBM coffee. That's unbelievable.
I love to hear that. We had a whole topics that matter at the beginning of every episode, and one was on corporate social responsibility and businesses showing up for their community. And so I think that's so important. And it sounds like they're really doing that for Austin Baptist Chapel. Okay, so now we are switching gears from numbers. We're going to talk more about stories and how can we connect listeners to Austin Baptist Chapel. Cindy or Mark, what inspired your mission and how has that evolved over time?
So Frank shared with me, since he was our founder, back in 1986, there was no soup kitchen that was here in Austin. And there was just a growing need that was recognized by the Catholic Diocese, the Austin Baptist Association, and then Travis County and the Salvation Army. And so there was this need for a soup kitchen. It was definitely in high need for Austin. So the Austin Baptist Chapel, it became a reality during that time. So we are from Georgia, and it's a little town, Dublin, Georgia, which is a few hours from Savannah. I grew up in Eastman, Georgia. My family's in Georgia, and Mark at that time was between jobs trying to figure out what we were going to do. My dad was owning a Firestone store, and he said, would you guys like to purchase that? And Mark and I had that conversation. Could we see us doing this, selling tires for the rest of our life? Mark had already made it like a church when customers would come in that he would share with the customers about Jesus. And talking with him, we're like, we want to do something more mission-minded together, but we didn't know what that was going to be. So that was like on our plate. So his brother calls and says, would you like to come out to Austin, Texas and help me move? So Mark comes out, and after all was said and done, Mark's like, I got to do something. I can't sit around here and be bored. And so his brother, he knew about the Austin Baptist Chapel. And so he said, just go work at the soup kitchen. I think it'll be really rewarding for you. So Mark goes down and he rides with Frank Deutsch on the truck. They go around, they're picking up donations. And I think Joel Mojica was with y'all too. And by the end of that trip, between Frank and Joel, they got to talking, and they said, we feel like God is telling us that Mark is the one to fill in when Frank retires. And so that night, Mark calls me on the phone and he says, well, I've been offered a job. Would you consider coming out to Austin and us running a soup kitchen? And my first reaction was, what? A soup kitchen? And just this whole bunch of emotions going on, and my family being 1,000 miles away. I couldn't see it. I'm like, I don't see how this is going to be possible. Because at that time, we have our 3 kids. They were in high school. One was getting ready to go away to college. And I thought, there's no way. We had that conversation and I just tell him no. And so he hangs up, he gets on the plane, he comes on back, and we just think that's it. We're not going to do it. They're going to find somebody else. And a couple of years, I think it was, Frank calls back and he says, I'm going to be retiring and I need to find someone for this position. And we know that you're the one that's for this job. And so we're like, we didn't pray about it. Being Christians, that's the number one thing you do before you make a huge decision. And then we didn't talk with our 3 kids just to see maybe possibly they would be willing to do this. And so we prayed about it and we felt this peace. We're like, okay. So me just being me, I'm like, well, if all 3 kids say that it's a go, then we'll do it, thinking there's no way. Then they all 3 said yes.
And how old were they at the time?
So they were in their teenage years.
17, 15, and
He's
30.
better with that.
I can't believe they all said yes.
Yeah, it blew us away. That's why we were like, we've got to do this. So we ended up selling everything that we had and we just moved out.
And you did it and you're
No
here.
regrets.
No regrets.
I ate the food every day. I said, when I quit eating it, we're leaving.
The way I like to put it, our volunteers are like, what is it like now? And it's like when you've been working on that 1,000-piece puzzle and you put in that last piece, that's what it feels like for us to be here. This feels like completion for us. People ask, would you ever move back to Georgia? Because 2 of our kids actually did move back to Georgia. And we're like, no, this is it. This is home.
We really feel called.
Wow.
It's just such a privilege. Just all
An
the people
honor.
that you meet.
And how many people are looking for that final piece? They're missing something in their life
Every
I
day.
think.
And it shows no amount of money because there's people that have nothing and people that think they have everything, but they still have that void that they're trying to find it. So,
But it's serving people. When you finally come to that point and realize the greatest joy we can do is serve others. And as crazy as we're about our pets and dogs, if we could love people just half that much, this world would be such a better place. And it's like work. A lot of people said I wasn't hired for that position. I'll work everybody, but I'll have some of our guests get a job and they'll say, do you know anybody else that needs a job? And I said, just work like you're the highest paid person there. The opportunity will come. And it's a lifetime to build a reputation, a day to ruin it. How important is it? Live like it.
That's great advice.
So every day I take different people on the truck and I take people to get haircuts all the time. But I've had grown men break down and cry that said, I haven't felt this good in I don't know how long. That I look like Grizzly Adams that probably hadn't had a haircut 2 or 3 years.
This is absolutely a good brag for you, Mark. I know you put your hands with God, and I love that. Mark, you go out and you take these men to go get haircuts. You drop everything you're doing in addition to everything you're doing at the location of Austin Baptist Chapel.
My mom always said the 2 things that last forever is God's word and souls. Why aren't we loving them both? And she'd always say, if I can make a difference in one life a day, it's been a good day.
Mark, you're helping so many men. There's men's clothing and men's haircuts and everything. And I think one of the things that Courtney and I have dived into in our topics that matter is the philanthropy gender gap, but also how men are more isolated. And I think women naturally just start connecting with each other more.
And I always tell them when they ride on the truck, whatever you tell me in the truck stays in the truck. I don't even tell Cindy half the stories, but some people tell me some crazy stuff. And I'm like, I'm not here to judge it. I said, God still loves us. We just got to make better decisions or turn that page.
Like
and
confession hour.
But they'll tell you crazy stuff. And you're like going, man.
And sometimes they just need a person to listen to.
Yeah, like
so
just
true.
a buddy for that moment, just to be that listening ear. Yeah.
Truly.
There's a lot of lonely people, period, right?
Yeah,
We know
right.
this exists in our society, especially as we're not convening as much in person since COVID and everything, but especially men. There's the loneliness crisis a little bit out there. So Mark, you're doing, it seems like great work with all the men out there. One thing I did want to address was how has your team had to innovate to solve unique challenges? And I know that COVID was one of them.
So that it threw us all off our feet when it hit. But with us, we're like, we cannot shut down. We don't know what this is going to look like. And this is gross. But I used to think of these movies like Chernobyl where you would see like people just things happening to their faces. And I'm like, is this what's going to happen with COVID when it first hit? But we didn't step into fear. We actually embraced what God had called us to do. And we knew that he was going to take care of us. We didn't even blink an eye. We just kept going. We knew that if we shut down, there was a lot of people that were going to go hungry. And in those, we had volunteers that just would show up and they're like, we want to help. So God took care of that whole thing with COVID. We never did close.
Yeah, and that's incredible because nobody knew what was going on.
No, everybody shut down.
And then when we had the ice, there's never been a day that we were closed and we had no power for several days. We had one gas burner cooking the coffee that was just nasty and they were happy. But we had neighbors that walked up and said, we don't have any water, we don't have any food. Do you care if we eat? And we fed everybody, but it was people that would never eat at the soup kitchen.
community
kitchen.
for sure.
And we've had different people that's came back and volunteered that later I want to give back or I want to help.
We've had 2 ice storms, pretty much.
Yes.
Like 1 ice, 1 snow, where, I mean, we had no power at our home during both events.
Exactly. So you just try to figure it out. And a lot of waste happens during that time because refrigerators go down, but then you just try to figure out what's shelf stable and we can give away.
Some of the fun stories about on how God provides, some of the people that were homeless that got off the street will say, I want to give for a while. If it's $20, $10. There's one guy that's given $10 a month since the kitchen opened. The guy's in his 90s now. It's just amazing that how the different people will give, and they just feel like I've eaten here for so long, I want to give.
And with that, we're donor based. So it's not like there's some huge grant. It's people that we've talked about that they ride by and they see that huge line of people that are waiting in line to get a meal, and they will look us up online and then they will reach out, or they'll just simply just get on PayPal and they'll just send us money. There's no city grants or state grants. And that's just how Frank's always wanted it to be. He wanted to rely on God, and it's working.
How is your relationship with Frank? Was it like really a seamless? Tell me about it.
So let me start out though. He's one of my best friends. My husband is the best friend, but he's one of my best friends. When I first met him, he was tough. So he was over 15 Air Force bases. Everything was either his way or the highway. So I go into the kitchen trying to stay busy and find something to do. And there's like boxes that need to be broke down. And he makes it clear to me by yelling and saying, that's my job. You're not to do that. And I had never been talked to like that. And so he was in the moment of trying to make sure the kitchen was running. And it was just one of those tense moments. Now I know that. But it took a few years to figure that out. And later on, he apologized for it. But in that moment, I cried. I end up calling Mark, and I'm in the bathroom. And I said, just give me the keys. I'm not coming back. That's it. And God worked in that. And between his wisdom and us, it's become a great partnership, understanding his heart, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, doesn't it make you realize, though, that some people can be nice to the front, and they're not really doing that much for people behind the scenes. And then there's people who might, tough love, or might just want to be, have a different personality, and they're the most empathetic, biggest hearted.
That's Frank.
Yeah.
Because he was so rough on the outside, and people would either really love him or they feared him. And if you talk to the people that really loved him, they could see his heart. The people that feared him were the ones that had just came to volunteer and they didn't get to know him. And so it's just that rough shell that then you realize that he's really like this teddy bear underneath.
One of the funny stories, though, that touched my heart probably the most since we've been there is we had a family. We have youth groups that'll come a lot of times on the weekend. And I'll ask them, do you want to go outside? Because I always read a devotion every day and share something. And one of the girls said, I'd like to go out and share something. The girl goes outside and says, we used to be homeless in this church that I'm here volunteer with this youth group. Help us get settled in and get my dad a job. And now she's involved in the youth group. And she goes, I was homeless and we lived months in our van with her family. And she shared her testimony. And the homeless were all out there crying. And I'm like, it could be anybody. I've had a guy who was going to UT. His folks, they have plenty of money. Their ranch is right beside King Ranch. So, you're not poor. And they said, this is your last straw. We're paying for your schooling. And he fiddled around and got kicked out. And he wasn't going back home. And he was eating at our kitchen. I had a guy that won the Canadian lottery where you don't pay any taxes, you get 100% of it. And he came down there having a good time till he lost it all, living under the bridge, and came in and ate the kitchen. But I've had lawyers, business owners, a chiropractor. I've had professors that said, I'm not going to tell you my name. You might look me up or whatever. And I said, it doesn't matter. And a lot of people tell you nicknames. Like one guy says, you can call me 1010.
Or Dirty Money.
Dirty Money.
But when everybody has a nickname that they tell you, they really don't want you to know your story. And then one of the craziest stories was the guy that was a Wall Street trader. And the guy came down here just to fall under the radar. He said, my wife and I split up. It was everything about the money. He said, I just wanted to do nothing that no one would know. And he was working at a restaurant. You're like, holy cow. It makes you realize how close we all are. We're one car wreck away from your life being totally changed. Maybe your job's eliminated, whatever it is. And not that we need to live in fear, but it just, all the things we cling to, we can lose very quickly.
Yeah. To your point earlier is that you could have nothing financially, but have everything, or the opposite. You could look like you have everything financially, but have nothing. And I think that's why it's so important, and why I started this show, is to hopefully get people who are more like me in my 20s, who aren't really thinking about serving or helping others. Right. I mean, helping others, being nice to everyone that I meet, right? That's not difficult. But going out of my way to go and help volunteer or donate, it could be acts of kindness. But those people, whether it's, working on Wall Street or anyone, maybe take a moment outside your bubble.
Yes.
And if you go help others and you go lend a hand.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's getting outside of your comfort zone. And we see that. The volunteers will show up because they've just walked through, a circumstance that they've never been, like these homeless people. And yes, it's very frightening. We moved from Georgia. I had never been, and I hate to put it this way, I've been around that circumstance. When we moved here, I was very afraid of what it was going to be like. But there's such a reward on the other side of that if you just step outside. And the volunteers come and they're like, when I first walked in, I didn't know if I'd be coming back, but it's been so fulfilling and so rewarding that they came back. So
yeah,
and we have a lot of the service league and junior league that they're coming.
Yeah, I was going to say, so why don't we talk a little bit about listeners' chance for what we call bragging rights? I would love to hear opportunities. I know volunteering, if you want to speak to
so
that.
with volunteering, I don't do well with people just dropping in because it can be like a corporation has showed up. And we'll have like Whole Foods that they'll show up to do time with their employees. And if they bring in like 10 to 15 people and then another person steps in, it just kind of rocks the boat a little bit. But we love our volunteers and we want them to serve, but the best way to do that is through email. And so if they go to our website, austinbaptistchapel.com, there you will find how you can volunteer. We also have there our Amazon wish list. And so there's just all kind of ways that they can participate.
And we talked about it just so that listeners know, 12 years or older to volunteer, and companies, if they want to do a team building event. I know I've done that at the Central Food Bank, school groups, youth groups, service leagues, and donate money. You said for the price of a cup of coffee, you can serve 2 people a meal.
That's right.
Crazy?
Like I said earlier, it's a shoestring budget and we've figured it out. And so with donations that come from those different stores that are here in Austin, it fills those needs. But with those monetary donations, it helps us to improve it as well.
One of the crazy ones that we had, Rosemary Catering, volunteer this week, and the people brought all the chips, all the drinks, everything that they needed to make the bags for the day. And so it was really neat. Now, our problem is that the dining room is so small and we give out so much more portions of food than we did before. Their breakfast bag is, most people eat it for lunch. So they'll usually end up coming, get that for breakfast, eat it for lunch, come back and get the soup, save the lunch and eat it for supper because there's that much food. Because breakfast is 9:30 to 10 and then lunch is 11 to 12:30.
And that's 30 minutes every day, 363 days of the year for breakfast, and then an hour and a half?
An hour and a half, for lunch. And it's just a sack. The guests can come through one time for breakfast and then again one time for lunch.
Okay, so volunteer, donate money, donate clothing, right? Men's clothing. You have an Amazon wish list. I want to talk about one more thing that's top of mind. I know that it's a wish, right? Or a dream. Do you want to speak to that, Cindy?
You always try to think outside the box and you never want to put God in a box. We really are praying for a new, bigger building to be able to serve all these people, and we never say never. And that's what we really feel like that God's pulling at our heart, is to get something that can serve these people, to open back up our dining room, to be there for those social moments and to meet other needs possibly as well.
And you would want to keep maybe the location you have
where
you're at and expand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we're, like you said, we're centrally located. There's bus stops where we're at and it's easy to get to. And the wild thing about where we're at, that building used to be the first record store here in Austin. It's so wild that Frank bought that and then made it into a soup kitchen.
Is there any property that's for sale around the area, or would you have to buy an adjacent lot?
Adjacent lot would be ideal. So there is one that's available beside us. So there's that. But we'd learn to never say never or never say no.
I hope you get that dream of expanding because y'all are doing really great work in Austin.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, listeners. If you've ever wondered, what does it mean to truly show up for others? Just spend an hour with Pastor Mark and his wife, Cindy, from Austin Baptist Chapel. I can't believe that they're open 363 days a year. And they are the only nonprofit I've spoken to that can share the impact that they're making without fundraising. It's insane. Just their central location, sheer impact, and steady faith in God has allowed their work to continue since 1986. From hot meals and showers to clean clothes and haircuts, they are serving dignity with a side of compassion. And since 1986, they they've served over 4 million meals with a mission grounded in faith and action. And their stories are even more interesting than the numbers. Like the man who just needed a haircut before a job interview and promised he wouldn't be back. He got the job, he kept the promise, and for once, a disappearing act that made everyone smile. There was the data science major that moved to Houston, and now he wants to start a soup kitchen because he was inspired by Austin Baptist Chapel. That's the ripple effect we've been talking about. And it reminds us, you never know what someone's going through. It could be a lifetime of struggle or just one hard season. Either way, the folks at Austin Baptist Chapel aren't asking questions, they're just showing up. Here's how to earn your bragging rights. Volunteer, help serve meals at Angel House. Just go to their website and you can email Cindy and she'll get you squared away. Donate essentials. They need socks, jeans, hygiene items, men's clothing. You can either drop items off directly or check out their Amazon wish list. Give if you can. They don't fundraise, but that doesn't mean that they don't need your support. If you're looking for a significant cause to contribute, reach out to Cindy and Mark. They are looking to expand and give that space for people to sit down and support each other as a community. And spread the word. Go follow Austin Baptist Chapel's social, or if you're doing anything good, post it and use #GoodBrag and DM us at Escape Into a Cause, and you just may win Texas Stars hockey tickets, because the Texas Stars loves giving back to those that are doing good. Also, during the Topics That Matter segment, Courtney and I chatted about the big question, what causes matter most to people? Statistically, religion is the #1 recipient of donations in the U.S. But beyond that, where does your heart land? Maybe for you, it's animals. You grew up with a rescue dog that changed your life. Or maybe it's education, because someone once helped you apply to college when no one else knew how. Maybe it's making sure people have food, shelter, and safety, because you've seen what it's like when they don't. Or maybe you're someone who lights up at the thought of helping young people discover their voice, because you remember what it felt like to be quiet for too long. We all have something that tugs at us, and once you feel it, you can't unfeel it. That's your cause. That's where your heart lands. And there's no right or wrong answer. If everyone cared about the same thing, the world would be out of balance. It's the variety, the people who fight for animals, for children, for the planet, for policy, for access. That makes our communities more whole. Whatever pulls at you, that's where you start. And that's more than enough. If showing up for the arts and children brightens your day, don't forget to subscribe, because next week, we're escaping into Austin's sound waves, where music isn't just an art form, it's a catalyst for equity, discipline, and belonging. Through intensive music education, they're opening doors and changing lives for young people across Central Texas. Until then, keep asking what matters, and don't forget, it ain't bragging if it's good. Huge thanks to Pastor Mark, Cindy, and the entire Austin Baptist Chapel community for opening their doors and their hearts, and for reminding us that showing up day after day changes lives. Special thanks to Nightlight Insurance for making this podcast possible, and your donation to Austin Baptist Chapel, Todd Thompson for editing and mixing, Graham Thompson and Jaden Dyer for the music, Corey McCain at Just Push Record Studios, and Ashlyn O'Neill for digital content management. I hope you join us next week as we escape into a cause.